Because one of the questions that they got a lot was, now, how did the two of you ever get together? How did y'all meet? The story starts back in the summer of 1976. Sherry was 12 years old. And with her mother, she would go to Evelyn Hill's shopping center, grocery store. Mom would take her with her. And at the time, Sherry had an aquarium with angelfish, guppies, goldfish, and she liked to go to this little fish store that was right near the grocery. They had flowers, fish tanks, and all the fish food that she might need. And so she walked in to get some fish food, and she saw this gentleman there at the store who was tall, the cutest man she had ever seen, had brown hair and these bright blue eyes, and the best smile ever. He was much older than she, but the schoolgirl crush hit her heart fluttered. And so whenever Sherry went to the mom's grocery store, she would always go to the little fish place, and the man with the wonderful smile would chat with them and give her plants, give her snails, little things, mostly sort of the store throwaways, but for her, they were just treasures. Now, fast forward 13 years. It's 1989. Sherry was in school. She and her cousin had apartments right near one another in the same complex here in Fayetteville, and they had this little open door policy. If one was out of something, they would go to the other's apartment to get things, eggs, milk, sugar, whatever. She was studying for finals one night, needed something to sort of hydrate herself. Water wasn't working. She needed a little stronger or something, so she wanted to go over and get some tea. She went over to her cousin's house. Didn't knock on the door. It was open. She didn't have time to go to the store. She just walked in. And there happened to be an insurance agent there talking with her cousin. He was there to collect a payment to an upgrade. He was a tall man, brown hair, blue eyes, the best smile ever. And they chatted a little bit. He tried to sell her a policy. And she laughed and said, well, you're really good. But he said, I am uninsurable. I'm on SSI and Medicaid, and she gestured to her left leg and said, because it is. And then the insurance agent had this little hint of a smile, and he said, uninsurable isn't a word, you know. And she laughed and said, I got to go back to study. I'll have a nice night. Got her tea and went back. Now, that was on a Wednesday. On Friday, Sherry's cousin called her. Remember that guy that was in my apartment, the insurance agent? Yeah. Isn't he good looking? Yeah. He's single. He called me back. He wants your number. And Sherry laughed and said, well, if he's crazy enough to call it, give it to him. He called. They talked 4 hours that night. The conversation only ended when he invited her to go fishing with him in the morning. So she said yes. 7 o'clock in the morning, he picked Sherry up with her crutches and took her out fishing. He had a picnic, chairs, folding table, wine, and fishing gear for both. It was a wonderful outing. Sherry caught 5 trout. Larry caught her. She was hooked by this charming man. She had only met 3 days earlier. Her cousin's wonderful insurance agent with that beautiful smile. So they dated. They dated until February of 1991. Sherry's family had an emergency, and she suddenly had to leave. She had to withdraw from the university. She packed, took off to Shreveport in the middle of the night. She tried calling Larry. He was out of town on the sales route. She left a message on his answering machine. He didn't answer the phone, return the messages. This went on for weeks and weeks. He didn't call back. What he had decided was that he was too old. The age difference much, and he was going to break it off because he thought that was best for both of them. And so it lay there until September 11th, 2001, when the nation was shaken. And all of us went into a sort of introspective place where you realize how vulnerable we all are and how short life it is and how wonderful it is. And many people around the country began to reach out to people that they may have lost contact with, but people who were meaningful to them in their life. And so on September 18th at 6 p.m., Sherry's phone rang in Springdale. And there was that smile on the line. They talked, they laughed, they cried. They met the next day, and the time between them just vanished. And she was caught again. They moved in together in that spring. Now, that was 2001. In 2007, Sherry was studying feng shui and decided that she needed to rearrange the house, and she said to Larry, you know, I'd like to have a fish tank over in the corner. And he laughed and said, you know, I used to have a store in the front of Esmond Hills. I shared with a couple other guys. We sold flowers, fish tanks, and supplies. And for the first time, Sherry made the connection. The tall man with the brown hair and the bright blue eyes. The best smile ever. Her friend since age 12. Dick Bennett is going to share some thoughts and memories with you next.
Lord, did you use it?
Oh, good. Yeah, I had that on. Yeah. I think it helps. You just pop it in your pocket.
Down like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I did. A handful of us, some of you here this afternoon, began to meet in 2003. The early months of 2004 were extraordinarily productive for the rapid response rappers we call them, as we had called ourselves. R. Sounded clever. Corley had so many files, we stored them in Omni's office to make them available to everybody. Corley Coombs, I'm talking about, one of our earliest members. And informally, some of us began to watch various persons, politicians, of course, foremost. Most of us were writing about the Bush, Cheney, Rice, Rumsfeld, 9/11 malefactors. We had a Bozeman watch. Meanwhile, some of us were visiting the congressman at his office. 5 times we visited Congressman Bozeman. And some of us were buttonholing journalists. The Brummett watch we had. Corley had strong objections to several of his columns. One watch was for Bradley Gitz, especially Larry. By April of 2004, Larry was writing so many letters, and only one a month by the same writer was accepted by newspapers. Some of you may know that. Writing so many letters that he was offering to write letters for others. We knew we needed more writers. For example, On the back page of the morning news, now we learned that We learned that a majority of United States corporations didn't pay income taxes since 1989. This should have been page 1 news, don't you think? Well, the rapid response of rappers needed a corrupt corporation watch, too. There were so many things we might write about, might have written about. And we needed someone to take on the job of coordinator, thanking, commenting on regular writers, thanking new writers, and inviting them to join our group, or at least keep on writing. On May 1, 2014, the morning news gave 6 items against President Bush. We seem to be making progress for what some of us refer to as progressivism, whatever that might mean, whatever you wish to call the rapid response rappers. At the end of May, Larry successfully challenged the Morning News opinion page editor, Meredith Oakey, regarding Bradley Dix's sources. He showed she had not verified Dix's accuracy, nor could he cite reliable sources for opinions in a column. Larry urged an important technique for us then, to try to challenge every right-wing ignorance and distortion, to provide rock solid sources for our own writings, and to insist upon them in right-wing writers and by the editors of the newspapers. It was a high standard. By July of 2004, this meteoric few months of the beginning of the rapid responses. By July, we had 17 writers promising to write regularly, and triple or more that number of our fellow writers were challenging business as usual. And on July 8th, 2004, Larry became our coordinator and chief morale booster. By then, we were calling ourselves simply the Rapid Responder Writers, or Rapid Response Writers. I must leap ahead because you can see I'm barely scratching the surface, and I could spend the whole day here talking about Larry's record in this one organization. In April 18, 2007, I jumped ahead now 2 years, Rapid Response writer, Mayor of Greenland, John Gray, was praised by the Northwest Arkansas Times. Quote, our solid liberal rapid response writer, I'm quoting from the paper. It's not John praising himself. John, you hear it. Our solid liberal rapid response writer cuts his political teeth in Greenland, one moratorium at a time. His secret, he takes none of it personally. No ego battles to win, just solid principles to uphold. It said the Times editorial, one day at a time. Larry listed all 22 of our progressive letters during April 2007. I'm jumping. He listed 22 for 1 month. That's what we were doing. By 2007, we had 22 writing letters. Or at least we counted 22. We were, of course, counting everybody who seemed to share our principles. And quote, outstanding job of writing and publishing letters in April. I'm quoting Larry. Our group had a total of 22 letters to editors publishing. All letters are attached in MS Word doc format. Making contributions this month were, and he listed all 22 annotated. but joyfully. He was always getting a kick out of this. We all were. And he wrote to us this letter. Now I'm going to quote him for a few lines. If I missed anyone's letter, by all means, let me know ASAP. This is routine. There are so many good letters representing intelligent thoughts and insights that it would boggle my mind to attempt to reduce any of them to a few words. Just read them yourself. Also find attached Art Hobson's excellent column entitled, What's Wrong with America? You can bet there will be negative responses to this fine column, so it's attached in the event someone needs to rebut a critic. We can look forward to seeing our dear friend Linda Farrell, who is here this afternoon, who has been recuperating from serious illness. Where are you, Linda? There you are. She told me she has plans to join us. Hopefully a couple of new folks will be joining us. There's an Arsagas coffee kiosk at the front of the library lobby. They offer many different drinks, sandwiches, and baked goods. Hope to see all of you. Larry Woodall, Rapid Response Writers Group. I'm a sleep ahead again. So much to report about Larry. On January 3, 2013, Larry wrote to us, please join us Saturday, January the 5th, 2013, for our monthly meeting of Rapid Response Writers. Bring your latest reading materials to discuss or present. Federal Public Library and Henry Boardroom, 1 o'clock p.m. He thanked all around. I was very accustomed to those words after those years. We enjoyed a wonderful end of season potluck at Dick Bennett's home. He praised everybody. But this was his idea that we have an annual Christmas party, which I think everyone really did get a kick out of after having such a kick of a year writing these letters. This was in December then of 2013, and it was good to have Mariah Hicks from the Democratic Hispanic Caucus join us and share her views on the state Democratic Party, and then he listed people who were there. I wish I could list all the people who were listed. It would be hundreds. Many thanks to our writers for December. He named three, and described the writing of each, three as examples. And all of the December writings, and he copied all of the December writings in TXT format. He was very good at a computer, which was necessary in that job. If I omitted anyone's publication, please let me know ASAP. They always say. Need something to write about? Try expanding Medicaid in Arkansas, which he discussed at length. And he ends his letter, hope to see many of you Saturday. Larry Woodall, coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick, for those wonderful memories. Dick mentioned that Larry was quite good computer and much better at it than I was, although it turns out we had a rather voluminous correspondence. Since I wasn't quite as good as Larry on computers, and didn't clean out my inbox on a regular basis, I discovered that I had 716 emails that Larry and I had exchanged.
What would Hillary have to say about that?
At the time that he was on like Earthlink and I was on Yahoo, both moved to Gmail. long since that now. But reading through those gave me a chance to remember some of the wonderful things that we shared. And I thought, what are the kind of things that we talked about? So here's sort of a list of some of the things that we did talk about. Tort reform, meaning cutting down on judgments against corporate wrongdoing. Misbehaving public officials, teabaggers on the quorum court, workers' rights, celebrating friends and good times, Freedom of Information Act, the Benton County Asylum, history, universal health care, Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement, WikiLeaks, the fight to raise the minimum wage, the Arkansas Travelers, the Clinton Foundation, Fox News, media bias, actually two separate deals there. Internet security and privacy, Charlie Collins' tax cuts for the rich and guns on campus, income inequality, fracking, media ethics, college costs, the Iraq War, corporate welfare, telecommunications issues, mock elections, Democratic Party, and Mexican buffets. And that's sort of a capsule of a lot of our relationship. But there are also numerous friends that we talked about that I noticed here. Barbara Fitzpatrick, Noam Chomsky, Bill Halter, John Gray, Max Greenwood, Lou Huddleston, Gladys Tiffany, Lisa Burks, Candy Clark, Lynn Carver, George Arnold, Kirby Sanders, Jonah Tebbets, Dick Bennett, Bill Harrison, John Zemper, Henry Griffith, and Lyle Thompson. In addition to those discussions about our friends, we also gossiped about Dan Ivey, Mark Darr, Justin Harris, Ronnie Floyd, Bill Pritchard, Dan Cootie, Debbie Telley, Mike Masterson, Wayne Lincoln, John Bozeman, Steve Womack, George Bush, and the Duggars. And I smiled on reading every one of these. But the type of quips that we exchanged, I think, probably attribute to him a good deal of the reason that our shared skepticism didn't become a shared cynicism. And one of the things that we did talk about this, it really, I think, sort of encapsulates that is the rapid response riders. Larry believed that it made a difference that people participated, that they did what they could to improve the conversation, to personally visit with elected leaders as if they could be persuaded to do the right thing. And a couple of examples I just want to share. One of this is from June 2010, and this is a letter to the Rapid Riders. It says, here's a group project for RR. Send me your input or ideas for rebuttal of this hateful, vindictive letter, and let's see if we can't offer full rebuttal on many points of contention. And he sort of summarized what it was. It was a person, Rogers, who had, was attacking the federal government's AIDS eradication approaches. Please add your ideas for rebuttal. I can send in a rebuttal letter or someone else can do it, but by no means I'm suggesting not to do a letter of your own. I'm in the last days of moving and repacking, but I'll be glad to collect ideas. Frankly, I'm surprised Doug Thompson allowed such a hateful letter to be published. But he was always of good cheer and a good sense of humor. Here's just Mr. Lyon, he had talked about the most recent election campaign and said the Republicans had run for office promising economic development, but it seemed they were spending all their time trying to get into everybody's bedroom and pass laws that infringe on individual liberty. But he does offer a word of praise. Lieutenant Governor Mark Darr did hire more employees, staff, and mostly use his office. So by that alone, he's the only Republican elected who, in fact, did create jobs. Too bad the former pizza man must leave office because he couldn't manage the dough. I think Larry's passion for truth and justice was tempered with calm reason and elegant language. His was a voice for a better world for all, and he had the courage to speak out when others found it easy to remain silent. Moreover, I'm glad that he worked tirelessly and patiently to lift every voice by encouraging others to express their opinions on the issues of the day. He made the difference.